Good morning, everyone.
Good morning!
It's always great to be here, and it's always an incredible, wonderful opportunity to be able to share my thoughts regarding the course, specifically how it actually, impacts my life and how it continues to help me, move forward. And hello to everyone on ACI. I'm gathering. We're very fortunate to have them as partner with us, and for those who are actually going to be here watching on YouTube at some point. So we definitely encourage you guys to check our YouTube because we have incredible videos of an amazing people who continues to speak. And so today I am going to be talking about faith. It took a while for me to figure out exactly what I wanted to talk about because it was last Sunday where it was confirmed that I was going to be speaking this Sunday. So I had a few days to actually figure out what I want to talk about. And normally Reverend Kelly gives us until Wednesday, towards the end of the day to come up with a blurb that we have to write up that goes out to everyone. And then I get a text message from her saying, by the way, can you get this to me on Tuesday because I'm going out of town for a few days. So she needed to get it. And I'm like, okay, I have not even thought about what I'm going to talk about. So just the pressure that they that was put upon. But you know what? I turned it over and I trusted and I had faith that the Spirit will guide me on exactly what is it that I'm supposed to talk about. So just turn it over, and I had to clear my mind and just let go of all that clutter that was entering it and trust that the Spirit was going to guide me. And it did. It guided me to talk about faith. And when we think about faith, there's so many different aspects of it that actually exist where you can actually go about, talking about it, because it's something that I know is important for me as someone who's very spiritual. Having faith is a crucial part of who I am, and so it's something that I recognize. It's something that I keep in mind. And so then I was thinking about, okay, which direction should I go in? And then the thing that kept coming to my mind is to just take the moment to reflect on a couple of things that have been happening to me in my life, specifically this year. Because as we get getting towards the end of the year, we're getting ready to go into 2018 within the next few weeks. Oh my God, I cannot believe that's happening already. 2018 is coming up. It's like, holy crap. And so I decided to, reflect on 2017 and, what things has, been like for me. I recognize I could not, talk about everything that happened to me in 2017 because it would take more than the allowed amount of 20 minutes that we have to speak. So I have to condense it very much of things that actually stood out for me this year, things that I felt that I had to really pay attention to regarding me keeping my faith and what that was all about. And recognize, that some of my experiences has been very positive this year, but also some of the experiences have been not so positive. Some challenges that I felt like I had to go through and continue to fight, throughout this year, which I'm pretty sure a lot of us, do. We have our ups and downs throughout this world that we're in, and that's natural, but we're very fortunate that we actually have a spiritual practice that actually, in my mind, helps us be able to stay more centered and more balanced and be able to, trust within ourselves. So the Course tells us this. The goal of truth requires faith. Faith is implicit in the acceptance of the Holy Spirit's purpose, and this faith is all-inclusive. Faith is an all-inclusive. Not one part. Faith is inclusive of everything. And that was something important for me to actually remember. And the thing is that it came to my mind when I saw that quote. It has to do actually with a movie that I just recently saw. As some of you guys know here that I'm a big movie buff. I love my movies. Especially when we have to do our Academy Award that's going to be happening in a few months. And so I like to be up on my movies. But this movie was actually selected by a friend of mine who wanted to go see. It was called Wonder. And I didn't know nothing about it. I'm like, okay, fine, it's your turn to pick. So I would go and see it. And so in essence, what it was about, it was about this kid who parents decided to have him go back to school. And the big thing that was going on was that throughout his life he had surgery, and then it created some kind of deform in his face. And so throughout most of his, up until like the 4th grade, he actually got homeschooled. And so no one really actually saw him but his parents and his sister. And so it was a big shift for the parents to decide, okay, he's going into the 5th grade, getting close to middle school. That was important for him to actually be out in public and to actually be around other kids and children. And it was such a incredible, beautiful, touching movie that I felt. And I think part of it was that my sense is that these parents knew that they were taking a chance of putting their child out into a world that we know sometimes is not pleasant, that sometimes is very hurtful, where people can be nasty and say, horrific things, to us. And especially, kids, I'm sure they don't mean it, but it's just the way, things that, even though it was in a movie, but that's reality also, and it's reality that we live, that happens. But yet, my sense is that the parents had faith that this was the right decision for them to do, to be able to put their child out into that situation, into that world. And then for the child themselves, they had their own stuff, realizing like, okay, I have to come in public in front of all these people knowing that they have an appearance of having a deformed face and not sure how people are going to be able to react to that. But what that reminded me of is that is when we have to trust and have faith and believe that each and every one of us have a purpose. And for that individual, they had a purpose of going out into public so people can be able to see and understand that it is not about the appearance of who we are, it's actually about the beauty of who we are inside. And that to me was part of having that faith to be able to do that. And that was very touching for me because I know growing up, I got teased a lot and how hurtful that was. And just imagine to realize, to understand that when we show up and put ourselves forward and trust and have faith, nothing but beauty can actually happen. And that's one of the things that really stuck out for me in that movie, and how much it was just such a powerful message that I felt that was given at that time. Then the course tells us this: where the goal of trust is set, their faith must be. The Holy Spirit sees the situation as a whole. So besides the touching of the movie that I saw, the other thing that it gave me the opportunity to do is to think about is, as I said, to reflect upon my life here in 2017 and what things been happening and what's been going on with me. And as a lot of you know, one of the big challenges that I've had over the years was work. Because as we know, work, job is a big part of who we are. We spend a lot of time at our jobs, and it's definitely an opportunity where we continue to learn and continue to grow and evolve, and just so many different things comes up, with us. And that's the same thing with me. It's such a big part of my life, and I recognize it's a big thing. And one thing that I, talked about, here before, many times was when it took me, when I was fighting to get into my new position. And how long of a process that was. And then when I took the time and reflect upon that, situation, I had to realize and recognize the fact of how much anger, how much disappointment, and how much frustration I had over that time period of not getting in a proper classification that I was supposed to be in at that time. And the thing that really, continued, that kept sticking up for me, and it was hard because, I loved the work that I was doing, and it was very important for me to remember to try to keep the faith as much as I possibly can, but it was a struggle. It was a constant battle in my mind of, do I still want to stay here? Should I leave because I'm not feeling appreciated? It's just like all those ego thoughts just kept entering in my mind, and then I had to, fight that. I had to really, really fight that and push that back and really have, faith. And then it was really challenging when I was seeing other people getting in their proper classification, and I wasn't. And just to see that happen, especially when it came after I did. And so it was really, really hard. And then I asked myself, how can you stay in a positive state of mind when you feel like, and I understand this is our ego mind, but when we feel like we've been treated poorly, when we feel like we're not being treated right, and how do we do that? Well, how we do that is we trust and we have faith and we turn it over to the Spirit to be able to help us get through those challenging, time. And then it really came to light for me when it really got to the point where it was hard for me to trust. I did a variety of different things. We had applied for different positions and all that, and I applied for this one position within the same within the higher classification that I was supposed to be in. So I got interviewed and it went very, very well. I felt like the interview and all that stuff. But then they decided to call us in for a second interview. So it came down to me and another person who actually worked at my office, who was someone who was there less than I was. So it was between two of us. And so then that other person got the position. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I dealt with my feelings and emotions, regarding that. But the thing that happened was at a meeting I went to, one of the people that was on the first, interview, asked me how things are going, how my position going, and all that stuff. I'm like, fine, I'm still in my same position. He's like, no, you're a new position that we interviewed for. I'm like, no, I didn't get the position. He's like, well, we actually recommended you to get that position. So I was recommended for that position, but yet they felt they wanted someone else, and that's why they gave it to them. And that was just like a stab there. It was like, wow. And so it was very hard to be able to sit with that. But then I realized that probably was not my purpose. That particular position was not my purpose. The position that I'm in now, that came in the form of someone else, actually helped me be able to see that differently. And of course reminds us of this. The goal establishes the fact that everyone involved in it will play his part in its accomplishment. This is inevitable. No one will fail in anything. This seems to ask for faith beyond you and beyond what you can give. And for me, that came in the fact that someone else knew, approached me about being part of a new position that I'm in right now. This is someone who I know way less than the other people I've been working with for so many years, but then they had the belief in me. They sensed and knew the work that I can actually be able to do. And they were like, you need to apply for this new position. And of course my ego mind was like, no way I'm going to apply for this. I'm not going to get it because I don't want to go through that whole thing again. I just did not want to go through that. And then they were like, what do you have to lose? You need to do this. And so I did. And then I got the position. And the thing is, the beauty of it is, this is where I'm supposed to be at. So all those previous things that happened over the years, it was not supposed to happen at that time. It is supposed to happen now. And I think the reason why it happened, that it manifested itself finally, is because I didn't lose the faith. Even though I wanted to. Deep down, I so wanted to give up. But I didn't. And because of that, I have the opportunity now to expand the healing message through my job for community, the African American community. That's what my job is about, looking at health disparities among all African Americans in San Francisco. I'll be able to help and see and heal a community that has experienced so much trauma now. It's not limited to one particular group anymore. It's all. And that is such a wonderful gift and blessing that I have now. And I was able to see that now because that's where I was supposed to be. And I did not know that at first because our ego mind did not want us to see. But when we take a step back and look and recognize, and that's the beauty. Trust me, I still have my doubts because it is a big position and it's a big leadership position where I'm putting myself out there. Whereas I used to just focus on black gay men, and now it's looking at the African American as a whole. I have my doubts, but I know and I trust and am in great belief that this is where I'm supposed to be at. And that is because I allowed myself to hold on to the incredible faith that I actually have. And then the other thing that continues to keep in my mind, for me to keep in mind, is when the Course tells us this: therefore it seeks to split off segments of the situation and deal with them separately. For it has faith in separation and not in wholeness. So there's no separation. Regardless what people's orientation is, regardless what their gender is, there's no separation. It's all about wholeness. It's all about us being one. That is what true faith is about. It's not putting people in their own little boxes or anything like that. And that's the beauty, and that's the great thing about it. And the other final thing that this year that I realize, and how the Spirit continues to test us, is when we have people in our lives who tends to transition, which means the people who pass away. We say transition here at the Course, but we found out last week that some people take that differently, what we mean about transition. But it's people who pass away, who die, and I've had a lot of people, die in my life, throughout my, years. And one of my friends, passed away not too long ago, and I'm going to be going to his service, today, and I'm going to be, speaking at that. But the challenging thing about that I had to deal with was when my ex Danny passed away. He passed away at the end of December of 2016. So the anniversary of his death is coming up, and so I've been dealing with a lot of emotions, regarding that aspect of it. And I remember, when that happened, it was, I had to ask myself and ask Spirit, why in the hell do you continue to have people in my life continues to leave? You continue to have them, die. And it was just so hard. And specifically in this case, because my ex, Danny, he decided to travel. We were together for 10 years, and he decided to travel when he retired from teaching. And one of the things place that he loved was Puerto Vallarta. So he decided to stay there and to live there. And he lived alone, and I was always fearful of that. And I've always told him, I don't like the fact that you're living in a country all by yourself and alone. And because my fears just kept entering, into my mind. And then unfortunately, that's what happened. He had died, and he was in his apartment for several days before they found him. And then I, remember I said, okay, Spirit, how can you let someone who had such a great spirit and enjoyed life so much to be left alone and not found until several days later? And I was losing faith, in spirit. I was losing faith in God, because I'm like, how can you allow someone who's that good to go through that? And then I realize and I understand, and the Course helps me be able to see this, is that their spirit is with us no matter what. And that's what I had to hold on to. I had to let go of all those nasty, fearful thoughts that was entering into my mind, and to keep my faith and to trust. Just because people are no longer in this world with us physically, they actually are still there with us in our spirit, in our hearts, in our minds. And that's what I was able to take from my partner, my ex who passed away, is to take that incredible energy, the incredible love of life that he has, and make it part of who I am. And that's when we allow ourselves to allow faith to be within who we are. And so as we move forward, especially getting ready for all these wonderful holiday seasons and gatherings, and getting ready for 2018, to understand and to allow ourselves to recognize that no matter what happens in our lives, as long as we keep our faith and know that that's a huge part of each and every one of us, we are going to be fine. We are going to be all right, because we're putting ourselves and our trust in something that even more than who we are. We are allowing our spirit, we're allowing our love, we're allowing our faith to be the thing that is in our forefront of our minds. And that is the gift And that is the beauty that we have. For me, that beauty was reflecting on that beautiful, wonderful movie Wonder, and taking that lesson and recognizing how that reminded me of my own childhood and how actually where I'm at now because of that. That is understanding that everything that I went through work was meant to happen. That it was part of my path because I was able to recognize and understand where I'm supposed to be at. And finally, it's part of understanding, yes, people will leave our lives in this physical world, but that doesn't mean that they left us. And that means that our faith is incredible and within us. As we move forward, continue to remember that, to trust, to have faith, and know that we all, but nothing but incredible, beautiful, healing people who have a strong passion for love, health, and faith. And that's my talk.